Ladies and gentlemen, there are two wonderful articles written by Andrew McCarthy in the National Review. Both explain something very simple to understand that media and Democrats and people who don't like the Durham probe simply can't comprehend. Number one, President Trump was essentially spied on during the years prior to him becoming president, and also up until, it says here, and it says within the filing as well, the executive office of the president's records in question covered the period from 2014 until early 2017. So, early 2017, President Trump had already defeated Clinton, the inauguration already took place, and it was up until February of 2017. February of 2017, who was in the executive office of the president? Wasn't President Obama. It was Donald Trump. So the surveillance was taking place while he was sitting president. When they tell you that it didn't happen, when they tell you that surveillance did not take place prior to him becoming, or after he was in the Oval Office, that is not true. It is in the indictment as well of Sussman. And so what they do is lie by omission, and this is an overt lie. And this is within an article, the misleading claim that Durham's reference to Trump White House records was misleading, by Andrew C. McCarthy, National Review. So they were gathering data, obtaining information on Trump's internet usage, who he communicated with, all of this, after he had already been inaugurated. That is engaging in surveillance of a sitting president. That is unprecedented when you're looking at things from a cybersecurity perspective. It's unprecedented for a direct political rival. So Bush never did this to President Obama. Yeah, but President Obama did this to Trump. But nobody had ever acted in that way. The two political parties, so when they say a peaceful transition of power, when they speak of January, that was a tragedy, it was terrible. They ignored an entire summer full of chaos and mayhem, $1 to $2 billion in property damage, 25 lives lost, and Vice President, then Senator Kamala Harris, was actually bailing out people. But if it's a demonstrator in any other country, and we know what's taking place in Canada, I don't think Kamala Harris is going to bail out anyone. So it's not about value system, it's simply about politics and optics and public relations. But the peaceful transition of power ended with President Obama leaving the White House and allowing all of these, Clinton, the attorney for Clinton, the tech executive that worked along with the attorney, the tech executive's company, all the technology people in a university that was using a government grant to obtain information, non-public information on Trump, the Steele dossier, Clapper, Brennan, President Obama's intelligence agencies, stating that Russia wanted Trump. This is absurd. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We're almost at 200,000 subscribers. Hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel below. We are seeing a slow motion stock market crash, and we're going to see, unfortunately, the 2,000 to 3,000 point drops in the Dow. Unfortunately, Bitcoin's going to get to $10,000 per coin. Unfortunately, it's going to drop. I don't want that to take place, but with inflation skyrocketing, interest rates increasing, and that won't make a dent on inflation initially. It's either inflation or the interest rates that will tank the stock market this year completely. But then you have oil approaching $100, likely going to pass record highs this year. $1 trillion still in margin debt. Stocks not only overvalued, but at bubble territory, historic bubble territory, according to Jeremy Grantham and Michael Burry, beyond a bubble. I mean, it's a catastrophe. And the reason is because, I wrote about this in the Federalist. I predicted all of this. Go to my author page, H.A. Goodman Federalist, just Google that, or you can go to hagoodman.com. You can read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, other publications. I stated that Democratic Party policies are leading us to an economic catastrophe, and they are. And when they pushed to end economic activity, they opened a Pandora's box of problems. Inflation being one of them, when they pumped $10 trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus. And demand skyrocketed for fossil fuels, which also undermined their attempt at combating climate change. But anyway, when people say, ladies and gentlemen, there are people on YouTube pundits, who will say any viewpoint that happens to align with Russia's interest is Russian propaganda. They say this, and yet they have no evidence to support this, other than high to moderate confidence assessments from Clapper and Brennan. This myth was created not based on fact, based on confidence assessments. It is a very sad and pathetic way to circumvent discussion by blaming everybody who disagrees with you as furthering the ideas of Putin. But the reality is they have egg on their face yet again, the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats. This is happening. This chaos is happening under their watch. So the same people who say, well, if you don't want sanctions against Russia, or if you don't want a belligerent or hawkish response, well, you're doing the bidding of Putin. It's happening under mashed potato brains Biden. This is taking place. So when you have Sussman and the Alpha Bank nonsense and them trying to engage in surveillance of Trump and them meeting with Central Intelligence after Trump was elected, and all of these other meetings and investigations after Trump was elected based on the Steele dossier and documents purchased by the Democratic Party, and they paid the tech firm they utilized to then indict Russian intelligence officials. They had no evidence. And then the Senate confirmation was a confirmation of an assessment. So you do the math on that. You have to be a complete imbecile to believe that anything was confirmed pertaining to Trump-Russia. That Russia would want to hack the DNC to ensure that everyone knew Bernie Sanders was cheated. Again, you're talking about the greatest imbeciles and buffoons of our generation who actually believe this nonsense. The whole thing was fabricated. And it's actually within the intelligence reports. The department, the DHS, and the ODNI reports come with high to moderate confidence assessments and warranty disclaimers that you should not take anything they say as a guarantee. But anyway, this is happening under mashed potato brains Biden's administration. So to the people, to the wonderful pundits who are liberal Democrats, how do these people justify or explain why all of this is taking place? Like, Putin was supposed to be petrified of Democrats. He was supposed to be so frightened of Democrats that he wanted Trump because he could get away with everything and do and implement his nefarious foreign policy with Trump at the helm, thus undermining NATO and weakening our allies. It's happening under Democrats in the House, the Senate, not just Biden and the executive branch and the presidency. It's happening in the House, the Senate, all run by Democrats, Biden and the executive branch. We saw the withdrawal in Afghanistan. We saw what took place. Biden completely botched the Doha Agreement that Trump negotiated to reverse U.S. foreign policy that Biden voted on alongside Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld 20 years ago. I mean, you have to be ignorant of U.S. foreign policy. And you have all of these to think that Biden's doing a good job. And then you get this nonsense in media. Never before. We spoke to this person who happened to work with President Obama's intelligence officials, and they said never before has somebody been so strong and forthright in calling out Russian aggression like Biden. These are buzzwords that give Democrats a Pavlovian response. Russian aggression, Russian interference, Trump-Russia, Trump's tax returns, anything to do with Trump or Russia, they start salivating. It's a Pavlovian response they get. Because they're the low end, like the people who vote Democrat generally, not all the time, but generally are low information voters. They believe myths and things that aren't true, like Trump being installed by the Kremlin. Because although they're extremely intelligent people, they have issues with the emotional consequences of Trump defeating Clinton. And by the way, I want her to run again, and she will. So I'll be vindicated about that also. And everyone on the left will fall in line. Even the furthest, edgiest socialist will fall in line, or they'll lose all their friends for not voting for Clinton again. But anyway, they don't understand, like people who vote Democrat don't really understand politics. They believe myths. It is a myth and a hoax that Russia wanted Trump. There was never any evidence of that. Now we're actually seeing that Russia would want Biden. We're actually seeing that the weakest link isn't Trump. It isn't Trump Republicans. The weakest link here, the most compromised political party is obviously the party that suspends the New York Post's account for discussing Hunter's laptop or the origins of you-know-what. Or ignores top-secret intelligence on servers running outside of the United States government. Or has James Comey say, gosh, there was no intent. No intent, but people lying to Peter Strzok were indicted. And so you have 3 people indicted by the Durham Probe Special Counsel. The Special Counsel found that they were spying on Trump after he was a sitting president. Yes. And it's within the indictment, and those 2 National Review articles will be below. Information on why Bitcoin has been going down in the past couple of months, going down, up, eventually it'll go down to $10,000 and below probably. The Dow will probably hit around 20,000. And again, this is a financial catastrophe that was in the making 2 years ago when they tried to kick Trump out of office. But why is Russia doing all of this when Biden is president? If Trump was president, they would say, oh my God, look at what's taking place. This is exactly why he was installed. Well, the question now is, what does Russia or the Kremlin have on mashed potato brains Biden? You see how the propaganda, they can't possibly accept it. So their thing is, well, Clapper and Brennan and all the smart people say that's not true. In fact, they impeached Trump for trying to strong-arm the Ukrainian leader. No, President Zelensky himself, again, another low information type of thing. President Zelensky himself stated that he was never pressured by anyone, and he wasn't ever pressured by Trump to investigate Biden. They impeached Trump on an ellipsis. So their entire world revolves around the morals, like the liberal sensibilities. Well, we think that ellipsis meant that Trump was going to, and it's actually these lies are actually being reported as truth. Do you remember when Trump used military aid to force an investigation? I mean, it's actually being written like that at CNN and other places. So people reading this believe the nonsense. You have to understand, Jake Sullivan, Blinken, Biden, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. And what Putin has done lately is completely manipulate Biden's administration. So Now they're going to get a lot more concessions. They don't just want to stop Ukraine from becoming part of NATO. They want other things too. And they're going to get those concessions. And because they manipulated not only NATO, but Biden's administration, we're experiencing a devastating stock market crash right now and an economic recovery that is going to, turn into a recession. We're heading into a recession. Oil is going to approach all-time highs. We don't have the leverage anymore. Our national debt has surpassed GDP. We don't have the leverage anymore, and Russia knows this. And that was because of Democratic Party policies 2 years ago, ending the U.S. economy because of you-know-what, and still obsessing over it 2 years later. And grudgingly, whatever. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. To vote Democrat and think that Biden is a fantastic national security, that his foreign policy is great, you'd have to be completely ignorant that that Putin is actually getting everything he wants now. And he's doing so because of the overreaction. And he's doing so because Biden ignored this problem for about a year and a half. He's been, president for over, going on a year and a half now. He was trying to focus on combating climate change. You don't combat climate change after you've forced a recession, a self-induced recession, and childcare. It's like, these are noble things. Climate change is a very important issue. I agree with that. But you don't focus on it when you're trying to have an economic rebound because you push to end economic activity. Now fossil fuels are at all-time highs. Congratulations. And we're heading into a recession, and Elon Musk predicted that. Give me your thoughts below. They engaged in surveillance of Trump while he was a sitting president. Let that sink in. And the rebuttal from Democrats is that, the information was obtained prior to him. No. Some of the information was obtained about a month, 2 months into Trump, about a month or so into Trump being a sitting president. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. I'll have a live stream today at around about 5:30 p.m.